Hey, I'm Theo. I'm 34 now. And if you'd asked my family who the good one was, the one who had their life together, they'd have said me. I had a good job, no major catastrophes, and mostly kept a low profile. I wasn't the showy type. Not the loudest person at family gatherings, but I was the guy you could call if your car died or if you needed to borrow money for rent, like the third time. I didn't mind, at least not in the beginning. I thought, well, I've had good luck. If I can help someone else out, that's cool. And with my family, my aunt, my cousins, even my older brother, there was always someone going through a tough time. I was raised by my grandparents because my mom died when I was 12. My dad was gone before I was even born. My cousins mostly grew up with my aunt, who always struggled to make ends meet. I guess I felt like I owed them. Maybe not with money, but emotionally, Like I made it so I should help everyone else stay afloat. It started small. My cousin Trina needed some cash for her last semester of college. Her grant didn't come through, and she was short $1,200. I sent it right away. A few months later, my aunt's rent was late, and she was about to get kicked out. I paid the landlord directly and told her not to worry about it. Then there was my brother Nate, trying to start a mobile car detailing business. He needed some seed money. I gave him $3,000. Big surprise, the business never happened, but the money sure did vanish. It just kept going on, those little asks piling up, month after month, year after year. It added up to a ton of money. Eventually, I quit even considering it as loans. I just figured I wouldn't get any of it back. But I still never refused. I kept telling myself they were thankful, that it mattered to them. Then that group call happened. It was a Sunday night, just a laid-back family chat on Zoom. We hadn't done one in ages, and since Trina had moved, we were trying to keep in touch. The call was already dragging on, and I mostly stayed quiet, just taking little sips of my tea and listening to my aunt complain about her neighbor's dog getting into her yard again. Trina was on her phone the whole time, glancing up and nodding every so often. Then, I guess she thought she was on mute. Her camera was off, and she was clearly talking to someone else right there with her. I don't think she knew we could hear everything until it was way too late. "You know what's crazy?" she said, and she was laughing. "Theo's like this walking wallet with feelings. You just ask sweetly enough, maybe shed a tear or two, and bam, rent's paid. I don't even feel bad anymore." There was this long pause, like a really awkward silence. And then from someone else, I think my aunt, I heard, "Well, at least he's good for something. Let him be the hero, he loves it." Someone else, my brother, snickered. "Probably better than dealing with his pathetic life. Has he ever even had a girlfriend?" I didn't say a word. I didn't even budge. I just stayed there, glued to my screen, watching their words become a blurry mess of nasty remarks and thoughtless jabs. No one realized I was still connected. Nobody seemed to care. They probably assumed I'd already logged off. Or maybe they just forgot I was a human being, not just a source of money. I shut my laptop without saying a word. No texts, no calls. I just sat there in the dark, letting it all sink in for a while. It wasn't anger, not yet. It was more like a heavy sadness, almost like mourning something I didn't even know I was holding onto some tiny hope that I meant more to them than just a wallet. That I was family, not just a cash machine. The next morning, I started going through my bank statements. I tallied up everything I'd given them over the last 5 years. Rent, school fees, groceries, emergency car fixes, random Venmo requests that said, "Please urgent." It came to $48,720, and that didn't include the birthday presents or when I paid the deposit when Nate got kicked out and needed a place right away. I just kept staring at the number. $48,000. That was a down payment on a house. That was a brand new car. It was almost half of what I'd been saving for my own future, slowly disappearing one sob story at a time. And there they were, laughing like I was some kind of idiot with a credit card. I didn't lose it. I didn't blow up. Instead, I got real quiet. And then I made a list. I wrote down every single payment I was responsible for. My aunt's rent, $1,050 a month, Trina's phone bill, $82. My car insurance, $117. It was all under my name, because years ago they told me it would be easier. They were supposed to send me money through Venmo, which, hardly ever happened. So I went in and canceled all the automatic payments, every single one. I changed all the passwords too. I even wrote down when each payment would fail. I circled the dates on my calendar like they were special occasions. Then I just waited. The first text was from my aunt on the 5th. It read, "Theo, something's wrong with the rent portal. It says the payment failed. Can you check?" No hello, no question mark at the end, just a subtle jab disguised as being confused. I ignored it. 3 days later, another one. Hey, I'm getting emails about late fees. Is this a glitch? Nothing. Then Trina jumped in. Did the phone company mess up the autopay? My service is suspended. I can't even call anyone. Still nothing. Nate's text was the best, though. Bro, my insurance lapsed. I had a claim last week and now they're saying I'm uninsured. Didn't reply. I didn't block them, though. That would have been too simple, too neat. I wanted them to sit with it, to feel the silence, to wonder what was going on. I wanted them to remember every careless word from that phone call, every single moment. They treated me like some kind of free money machine with no boundaries and zero respect for me. A week went by, then two. My aunt blew up my phone with a huge text. It started with "We need to chat," and then it just went downhill from there. It turned into "I don't get why you're acting this way," and then "We're family, for Pete's sake." Oh, and my personal favorite, don't let some stupid joke on a phone call wreck all the years of love. So I finally answered. Wallet with feelings. That's what I wrote, not them. I knew it would land hard. I knew it would hurt. But that wasn't the end, not even close. What they didn't know, what they couldn't see coming, was what I did next. And when it hit them, when the whole thing finally sunk in, there was no going back. After I sent those 4 words, things got quiet. For a while my phone was silent, which hadn't happened in ages. No late-night requests for cash, no guilt-tripping emojis, no fake concerned little digs, just nothing. For a couple of days, it almost felt like peace. Almost, but I knew my family too well to think it would last. That silence wasn't surrender. It was them plotting. Sure enough, a few days later, I heard from my cousin Lisa. She never begged for money straight up, which made her the go-to mediator. Her message was long and all over the place, with stuff like misunderstanding. They didn't mean it that way, and they're just stressed. And Theo, you're always the strong one. She even sent a picture of her new baby, like that was gonna make me cave. I almost wavered. I really did. Because I loved them, Or at least I loved who I thought they were. Then I flashed back to Trina's laugh, that sharp, cutting sound, and that awful comment about me being a walking wallet. I remembered my aunt chiming in, saying something like, well, at least he's good for something. That wasn't them getting me wrong. That was the real them, slipping out when they figured nobody was paying attention. So nope, I held my ground. I didn't even bother responding. And that's when they started trying to lay the guilt trip on thick. It began with these vague posts on Facebook. My aunt shared some meme about how some people forget who helped them out when they were down and out. Trina posted a selfie with a caption about how you can give, and people will still stab you in the back. Nate, always the master of subtlety, posted about how crazy it is when family ghosts you over nothing. And the likes and comments just poured in. People who had no clue what actually happened were leaving crying emojis and telling them to stay strong. But I didn't take the bait. I didn't comment, didn't try to explain myself because I didn't have to. They were doing a fine job of destroying themselves without my help. They didn't get it. Cutting off their money was just the first step. See, over the years, I hadn't just been paying their bills. I'd set up their whole lives. I co-signed leases, put utilities in my name, even had their phone lines on my credit. I did it because they needed help, and I thought I was being a good guy. But that meant I controlled everything. And now, I had the time and the reason to dismantle it all. So first thing I did was call the apartment manager about my aunt's place, to get a copy of the lease. Turns out she hadn't renewed it in 2 years. Crazy, right? She was technically still on a month-to-month under my name. I officially asked them to cancel it at the end of the month. The manager was all, wait, you're not renewing for your aunt? And I was like, nope, she's not my responsibility anymore. I'm not her bank. Then I hit up the phone company to shut down the family plan I'd been paying for 5 lines, can you believe it? My aunt, Trina, her boyfriend, and 2 numbers I didn't even know. Poof, they all lost service at once. Got a bunch of angry texts from random numbers after that, but I just ignored them. Their problem now. Next up was the car insurance. Nate, my cousin, had been driving on my plan since college when he had no credit. He always said he'd get his own, but never did. When I canceled it, I made sure it was retroactive bam. He was driving without insurance for 6 whole days before he figured it out. I bet that DMV visit was a real hoot. But the best part, the real kicker, was this little trust fund my grandparents left me when they died. It wasn't a fortune, but they'd asked me to manage it for the family. Just a few $1,000 in a joint account. As the executor, I'd just let it sit there for years. But after that phone call, I decided it was time to finally distribute it. Just not to them, to their kids. So, I went to a lawyer, laid it all out, and got everything down on paper. I sent checks directly to my 3 youngest cousins' college funds. I included a little note with each one like, "From your great-grandparents. I hope you're raised with more compassion than your parents were." The minute those checks went through, the whole family found out, and that's when things went completely sideways. I woke up one morning to, over 30 missed calls. My aunt left a voicemail that started off all teary and ended up furious. "How dare you go behind our backs and steal from us?" she screeched. "That money wasn't yours to decide." Trina dropped a comment on one of my Instagram posts, just the clown emoji. Nate texted me, "You better lawyer up, bro, this isn't over." But the best part, the absolute icing on the cake, was a message from my uncle, who hadn't talked to me in almost 10 years. He wrote, "Just heard about the drama. Honestly, about time someone did it. You've been too generous for too long. Don't let them drag you back down." That one stuck with me because it showed me not everyone in the family was a total mess. Some just kept quiet, watching, waiting to see how it'd all unfold. A week later, I got a group invite. Another Zoom call. Trina sent it. No message, just the link and the title, "Let's clear the air." I stared at that link for a whole minute. I even clicked it, let it load. And for a few seconds, I saw their faces. Awkward, tense, trying to look happy. Mayan smiled. Trina looked like she was about to say something, but I stayed muted. Didn't give a wave, just smiled and shut the window, because I knew how to vanish without a word too. The following weeks were the quietest they'd been in forever. No messages, no phone calls, no more emergencies in the middle of the night. The quiet wasn't just nice, it was helpful. For the first time in ages, I could focus on me. I dug out old journals I hadn't opened since college, got back into cooking. I even started going hiking on weekends. Things I'd put aside, claiming I was too busy. The truth was, I'd kept myself busy for them. And now that they were gone, I saw how much space they'd taken up, not just in my schedule, but in my head. But toxic people don't just disappear. They just search for another way in. It came from someone I didn't expect. My mom's sister, Aunt Carla. She was the only one from my mom's family I still talked to. She called me one Sunday morning and said, "Honey, you should know something. Trina's telling everyone you stole money that was supposed to be for the family, that you're keeping everyone's share." I sighed, rubbing my head. "That's rich. I have the paperwork, Carla. Real legal stuff. I know, sweetie, I believe you, but you should look on Facebook." I hadn't checked in a while. I logged in and the notifications were overwhelming. Trina put up this giant, showy post. It had an old photo of us as kids, and the caption read, "It stings when the guy you thought was your brother turns out to be your accountant." And a crooked one at that. Hundreds of people chimed in, a lot of them strangers, gasping and sending virtual embraces. The rest were friends and family, saying stuff like, "There's always another side," and "I never liked how he acted, like he was better than everyone." I didn't say anything. I just took screenshots of everything. Not because I was going to sue her for trashing my name, even though I could have, but because I wanted to keep a record. Proof of how far they'd go once the money dried up. But what really got to me was what happened after that. Mia, one of the younger cousins, maybe 17, DM'd me. Just 3 words. "Are they lying?" I stared at that message for ages. I could have just ignored her, told her to talk to her mom. But I called her instead, and we talked for 2 hours. She said she felt stuck, that her mom, Trina, kept saying I stole from the family, but it didn't feel right to her. She'd seen how hard I worked, how much I helped out, and she remembered me giving her $50 for school books. When her mom said there wasn't any money, I told her everything. And at the end, she said, "I don't want to end up like them." Man, that stung more than any of their insults ever did. This kid was still finding her way, and she already saw the difference I was making. That meant the world to me. So I offered to help her with scholarships, suggested a couple of internships. She told me she wanted to get out, go to college, get a real job, escape being, as she put it, a branch on the beggar tree. We both cracked up, but underneath the laughter, there was something real, a real fire. For the first time since this whole mess began, I felt a real sense of accomplishment, like maybe I'd actually done something good. Then, about 2 months after that awful group call, bam, a knock on my door. It was my brother, Nate. He looked terrible, all sunken eyes, a scraggly beard, his hoodie pulled down low, hiding his face. I hadn't seen him in person for over a year, not since I'd driven across town at midnight because he'd claimed a flat tire, which turned out to be a bad date. He wanted out. I didn't invite him in, I just stayed in the doorway. He didn't beat around the bush. I messed up, man, he said. I didn't say anything. I got a letter from collections about the insurance, he continued. Still, I said nothing. And Trina's got people talking about suing you, he mumbled. I told him it was a dumb idea, but you know Trina. He looked down at his shoes, shifting his weight nervously. I'm not here to make you feel guilty, he said. I guess I wanted to say I'm sorry. I raised an eyebrow. For what? I asked. He hesitated. For everything, he finally said. For treating you like my personal bank. For laughing when I thought you couldn't hear me. It really hurt, you know, making me feel like I was nothing to you. I told him straight up, look, if you don't truly mean this apology, let's not bring the whole family into it. He looked down, all embarrassed. Yeah, he got that. We just sat there for a while. A little wind picked up, the trees started rustling. A car went by far off. Finally, he mumbled, so, can we start over? I stared right at him and said, I don't know, Nate. Starting over means going back to square one, but you took me way below that. He gulped, nodded slowly, and walked away. I didn't try to stop him. Because here's the deal, rescue, redemption, it ain't just words. You gotta actually do it. And after everything, I wasn't handing out any more favors. That night, Aunt Carla called again. Some family members had heard Trina was getting heat. People were asking questions. They wondered why the person who'd been paying everyone's bills was suddenly the bad guy. A few even called me personally, apologizing, saying they hadn't known the whole story. I didn't answer most of them, except for one. My grandma's sister Sylvia, she's like 80-something, old school. She left a message saying, you were always so kind, Theo, maybe too kind, but you finally set a limit. That's not being mean, that's being smart. I'm proud of you, honey. I kept that message. For once, somebody saw me not as their bank account, not as their problem solver, but as a person with feelings. And this time, I was finally letting myself feel them. 3 months went by, long enough for all the craziness to quiet down, long enough for the stillness to feel peaceful, you know? Not like an uncomfortable silence, but actually peaceful. Things finally settled. Their lies fell apart when people started looking closer. Trina's sob stories, nobody cared anymore. My aunt stopped with her over-the-top Facebook posts. Nate vanished from social media, no more money from me for him. The whole charade they'd built just collapsed. They couldn't guilt-trip me, shame me, or manipulate me anymore. I wasn't just off their payroll, I was completely gone from their lives. Then one January morning, I got this official letter. It was from Trina's ex-boyfriend. I recognized his name from the phone bill I'd canceled. He was trying to make me pay back money he claimed I'd stolen from the family trust. I didn't even need a lawyer to see it was a joke. I snapped a pic, sent it to my lawyer, and he just texted back, "This is garbage." He said if they kept it up, we'd sue them for harassment. That was it. The very last thing. Radio silence. Not a single call, text, or even a knock on my door. They'd burned all the bridges, then tried to swim across the flames when things got too hot. And I just let it burn. A month after that, I went to a little family get-together at Aunt Carla's. It was small, relaxed, just a few of my mom's relatives. No drama, no guilt, no crazy yelling, just peace. So there we were at dinner, and my husband, he raised his glass. He thanked Theo, for showing us all how to give without getting totally used up. We all clinked glasses, and I just kinda smiled, a small, quiet smile. That night, walking home, the stars were out, bright and beautiful, and the wind was chilly, biting into my face. But I walked with purpose, each step feeling solid under my feet. I thought back on all those years, man, all the years I spent trying to be everything to everyone else. I let myself become their go-to person, their personal ATM. I was always there for them, a giver, not a human being with needs of my own. But that chapter's closed. Now I've got boundaries, see? Not like big, scary walls or sharp, mean barbed wire. Just nice, clear lines, Lines that say, this is me and this is how I expect to be treated. I didn't need payback. I didn't need apologies or anyone begging for forgiveness. Honestly, I've got something way better. I've got my life back, and that's worth more than anything I ever gave them, 1,000,000 times over.